Hello everybody, Storm here. Welcome back to Kerbal Space program. In the last episode, we set up a communications satellite network to relay communications around Kerbin and cover the Kerbin sphere of influence to help get any signals from any unmanned probes or stations to a ground station, should one not be in line of sight or out of range. So that should help, and it was just kind of the beginning of a communications network, just a few satellites to get it started. And then I designed a new lander and flew a new mission to the moon to land, gather science, and that went pretty well. We didn't have any major incidents on landing like we did the previous couple of times, so that's great. We established the new kind of permanent ground science experiments that are part of the Breaking Ground expansion. Set one of those up, and so that should be bringing in a trickle of science over time. And there it is right there. And so, yeah, that went all pretty well. We were able to get those Kerbals home, though we are a little tight on fuel, tighter than I'd like, so we're probably making some adjustments to that lander to get a little bit more fuel on there, just to make sure that there aren't any potential issues with a Minmus mission that they're going to be flying here probably soon. So, a few things to cover. Oh, excuse me. Before we get started. So in between episodes, I went ahead and put some more satellites in orbit. So we go to the tracking station here. Alright, so I put 4 more satellites in polar orbit at increasing altitudes to increase, that particular constellation of communication satellites. And then I set up these long-range comsats here and here. And let's go ahead and fly one of those so we can see what those look like. Because these are a bit larger than the really small satellites that we launched last episode. So this is a long-range comsat that I designed that uses the new antenna that we unlocked with the science we gathered from the moon last episode. And so, give it a bunch of solar panels, a bunch of batteries, some more of these antennas that we were using before. And I even gave it a little bit of a fuel tank and an engine, just in case I wanted to move them around or adjust their altitudes or anything like that. But, so far so good. And I also rigged their upper stages that brought them up to this altitude with its own probe body and antennas, and then drop them down to lower altitudes so that we have basically this. They have a few small solar panels and an antenna, so they can basically function as a, makeshift relay as well. Rather than just ditching the stages, make them somewhat useful. So that was the thought there. Alright, so what we're going to do first here is actually something a little bit different. We're not going to fly the Minmus mission just yet. I am going to put together an unmanned probe to take advantage of these new long-range communication satellites and see if we can't maybe get our first interplanetary mission flying. That should be interesting. Alright, so let's go ahead and head back to Space Center. And let's start putting together this probe. So it's going to be somewhat largish. Oh, the other thing that I did, I almost forgot to mention, is that I put together a little rover. Let's see, let me load that up so you can see it. Now, this rover is not intended to be flown or to do anything on the surface of any stellar bodies. What it was designed to do is to gather science from Kerbal Space Center. So we have basically the command pod there, the Science Junior, got some more science experiments, the solar panels, the wheels, and I have a fuel tank on here, but that's purely to act as a counterweight to this so that it wouldn't tip over, and some more batteries just to keep it running. And basically I drove this little guy around all the different facilities in Kerbal Space Center and gathered the ground science that you can get from all the facilities. And that got a fair bit. That did get a fair bit of science. It was like a couple of 100 points in total. And I used that. Let's see, what did I unlock? I think I unlocked the Unmanned tech, which just made sense for what we're going to do here. I need to unlock these high power electrics because we need to get some better solar panels. The extra large solar arrays. And this is going to get us another communications antenna. The one that we currently have that we unlocked from here, which is this one, has 60 gigameters of range, which should basically cover most of the inner planets completely. And it should even be able to reach, like, Joule if they're in the close part of their orbit and things like that. So it's going to cover a pretty fair amount of the Kerbal system. So, on to the design phase. Alright, first things first is we need a probe body. And what do I want to use as a probe body? I guess we'll use this one. Let's kind of build it a little bit high up here, because we're going to have to stick a rocket underneath of this thing at some point. Alright, and then it's going to need a communications antenna. No, it needs this one. The relay antenna that has the 60 gigameters communications range. There you go. And then what I'm going to do on here is I'm going to throw a couple of Science Juniors on here. Because we're not going to be able to reset these, because we're not going to have a Kerbal on board. And do I want to put a service bay in here for the rest of the other experiments? Is that how I want to do that? Probably. Actually, I should have that as a sub-assembly. Indeed, I should do that. Science bay. There you are. Throw that on there. It has some batteries on it as well, which is good. Now, we do have the new Seismic Accelerometer, which will generate additional science, but only if we're landed, and this thing is not going to be landing on anything. I don't even think we're going to be trying to bring this thing back home. No, I don't think so. This is going to be a permanent spaceborne vehicle. Okay. Now there are some batteries in there, but I'm going to want some bigger batteries or some more batteries. And we are going to need some more solar panels. We're going to need some solar panels anyway. But I think first is I want this thing to have its own engine because I want it to be able to maneuver. And I think we're going to go with the Cryogenic Engines because, again, they have fairly high specific impulse. Like, we'll probably be using, like, this engine. Has a specific impulse of 465 in vacuum, which is pretty good compared to pretty much any other engine we have. Yeah, 315, 335 in a vacuum, 320. Even these, which are very efficient engines in space, still only have 370 specific impulse. So, cryogenic engines it is. And also their fuel is a lot lighter, so that's nice. Alright, so if we use that tank, LH2 and oxidizer, and we throw that on there, that gets us what? 1600 delta meters, 1600 meters per second delta V? That's not going to be quite what I want. I want a lot more than that. So let's see. HR-18 hydrogen tank? Ooh, that's a bit more than I'm looking for. These guys. Yes. That's what I'm talking about. Let's give it an absurd amount of delta V. I'm not exactly sure where we're going to go with this thing, but I want to have options. So let's go ahead and do this. (4,900 meters per second in delta V). That's good. I like it. Alright, let's throw some stuff on here. Let's see. Battery bank. Let's see if we sneak some batteries in there. That knocks about 400 meters per second delta V off. 1200 charge, 600 charge, 300 charge, 600 charge. Maybe these. Okay, yeah, those will work. We don't really need those aerodynamic covers on there, but it's fine. So that should be all the batteries we need. I think I'm gonna want another antenna. Just because. And now, solar panels. How do I want to do that? We're going to want it to have a lot of solar panels so they're going to recharge those batteries for transmitting data. So we have these. You can put up there. And if we don't intend to ever actually return this thing, we can grab some of these. Put them there. Yeah, that works. Alright, so let's set up an action group to extend the antenna and the solar panels. Okay. Is that everything we need? Is that everything we need? And we don't need the ground-based stuff. I think we've got all the science experiments we're going to be able to use. And yeah, I think that ought to do it. Alright, so we're now going to put this thing in a fairing and put it on top of a rocket. So that's going to be here, payload. Oh, we probably need to put a stack decoupler on here first. There we go. And then the fairing base. And we're probably going to want to put that on 2.5 meter rocket. There we are. And what launch vehicle or what lift vehicle do we want to put on this thing? Do I want to go with the heavy? Considering I want to put this thing into interstellar space, I think that might be a good idea. Oh, there is one thing that I probably want to put on here. And we're probably going to put it up here. Is this reaction wheel. Just to make it a little bit more maneuverable. Now, there are some adjustments that I want to make to this launch vehicle. Because I want to do something similar where I make this upper stage controllable. So I want that radial attachment point. This is how I did this before. Radial attachment point. And then we put a probe core on here. throw some batteries in there. Oh, that, this guy's not centered. Unfortunately, it just doesn't snap. So it's just come on, just get it in the center. Ugh. It is not going to want to cooperate. Oh well, that's just where it's going to have to be. Alright, and it's going to need a communications antenna. See, that's why I want it to be centered, so that it kind of goes in between those struts there. Oh, good enough. And it's going to need some photovoltaic panels. Those are going to be hard pressed to get much light in there. Or what I could do is take those off and throw some of these on here. Okay, yeah, that'll work better. Now, the other thing that I want to do is I want a monopropellant tank. I think we're going to have to use a procedural one. Because I want some RCS thrusters on here. Because I don't have any good reaction wheels for rockets of this size. So I think we're going to probably need some RCS thrusters. This one. I'm going to put this all the way down here as well. Let's see, is that where I want it? No, not exactly. There's more where I want that. Okay. So that'll help this whole vehicle rotate, because that's going to be a bit of an issue without a much larger reaction control wheel, which we don't just don't have unlocked yet. Okay, so let's go ahead and put the fairing on here, and let's try to get this thing flown. Well, we got to sort out the staging first. Can't forget to do that. Conic? Yeah, conic's fine. There we go. Oh, first, because that's the root part of the whole thing. There we go. Let's get the launch clamps on here. Okay, so launch clamps for boosters, and then we have those decouplers and those rocket motors to push those away, and we want that to fire at the same time as well. Okay, and then we're going to want that decoupler to go, and then we're going to want that engine to fire, and then we're going to want that decoupler to go, and that engine, well, no, this engine to fire, and then the fairing, most likely we're going to want that to detach. Probably somewhere around here. I don't want that to happen too early in the flight. But yeah, it's probably going to be before we detach that. Before we detach that, is because this should get us all the way into space. So yeah, that should be fine. Oh, there's actually one thing I wanted to do. I don't know if I need it or not, but we're going to throw it on here anyway. This little antenna, because it doesn't need to be deployed and should provide local communications as we're launching. Okay. There we are. That has a lot of delta V. Okay. Let's go ahead, and this is going to be I can't think of a name here. Ah. We'll just call it Interplanetary Probe 1, and then I'll come up with a name later. Okay. Save that. I probably should have thought of that before I even started. But it's okay. So, let's go ahead and launch this beast. Now, I'm going to go ahead and manually fly this particular launch. And show it on screen. We don't need that. Turn that off. So that unlocked with some of the new stuff is that we can actually autopilot launches now, but as I said, not going to do that right now. Do we want the RCS on? No, we don't need the RCS on yet. Alright, let's go ahead, throttle up. And launch. Wait, is that on? No. Why do I not have throttle control? is not interfering with things. Really? Even without the autopilot on, if I have that... Okay. Okay. Fine, MechJeb. Turn it off. We're not using you right now. I want to get this guy nosed over because we are... We need to start getting some horizontal on here. Probably going to want to throttle that down just a tad. Prepare for booster separation. There they go. And separate. Alright. Let's get this guy going. Our apoapsis is at 80,000 meters. I want to get that to probably about 90-ish. Maybe 100. And there. And go ahead and blow those fairings. I don't think I put these on the action group, did I? I don't believe I did. Oh well. We actually should be high enough that I can deploy everything. So let's go ahead and get that all out there. Alright, so let's go ahead and set up a maneuver node so we know what kind of thrust we're going to be needing. Or rather, what kind of delta V we're going to be needing. Alright, it's going to be a 30-second burn. RCS. And I don't have any other... Alright, well... We're going to have to fly it manually. Let's see. How much Delta V do I have left in the tank? 2,000? Alright. That's a bit more than I was expecting. Probably didn't need to have the heavy version of this then. Alright, we're almost there. I'm gonna fire this at about 16 seconds or so. Now to decide if I want to deorbit this thing or not. I think we are. I'm gonna ditch it. Alright, we should need RCS now. Okay, well, let's get that antenna extended. Let's get the solar panels deployed. Alright, now this guy has about 1,000 meters per second of Delta V. So we're probably ready to push into interplanetary space. Now, where do we want to do that? We probably want to start doing that around here-ish. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm not going to maneuver node it. I'm just going to say warp there. And then align prograde. And then use this to push us into an escape trajectory. Get ready to kill it. Okay, good. Alright, this only gives us 240 meters per second left. I'm going to go ahead and detach. And ignite that engine. And use a little bit of it to push us away from that upper stage. Alright, that should be good. Now I'm going to switch to this, and I'm going to flip us around. I'm going to burn off the rest of this fuel in a retrograde. Actually, do I want to do it that way, or do I want to do a radial? Let's do radial. Radial in. I don't know if this is going to work. Nope. But I should have done retrograde. Oh well, it's alright. Well, we'll see where it ends up. Okay, so let's switch back over to our probe. Switch to. And let's get let's accelerate out here. And there we are. We are now outside of Kerbin's sphere of influence. And we have new science that we can run. Temperature scan. We're going to need to transmit the data. Let me take a look at our electric charge. Mystery goo observation. That's not going to get us a ton for transmitting. The goo looks like a rainbow. Transmit the data. That's fine. Material study. Transmit the data. Good. Atmospheric pressure scan, which doesn't make any sense, but transmit it anyway. There we go. Now, where do we want to take the probe? So, one thing I can take a look at is our... I have this. The transfer window planner. That helps determine the optimal time to do, transfers to other planets. And let's go ahead and see what we've got. So, from Kerbin, we're close enough that I can say we're at Kerbin. To Moho... Let's see, what is that? That's 7,000 meters per second. We don't have that on board. Okay, so that's not going to work. And because we want to go during the areas where it's blue. Even at the most optimal launch window, It'd be 5,000 meters per second, so Moho is not going to work. Alright, so Eve. What about Eve? Let's see. Can we get something that meets what we've got on board? 4,600 meters per second at where we're at right now. Probably not. Alright. Duna. We have a good transfer coming up here relatively soon, so we'll probably want to be ready for that. But let's see. If we were to... we should be able to get it under 3,000 meters per second. Okay. I think we can try for Duna. So, let's go ahead and throw a note out here. Let's see. Duna's ahead of us. That's probably why my transfer can work. But it's got to be a bit more aggressive than usual. Alright. Because really what you want to do is you want to wait until the angle formed here by Kerbin and Duna is about 45 degrees, so we're at 90-ish. A little bit more than 90. So again, it's not an optimal transfer, but it should be good enough. Let's see, if we try to get there faster, do we get a close encounter at any point here? But they said it was going to be a longer... departure year, phase angle, right? Ejection angle, 34 degrees to prograde. $1,700 meters per second. So I think what we'll be doing is we'll be getting to it on the back end. All right. I have to see if I can find anywhere where we even get a close approach. Oh, I need to actually set it as a target. that would probably be why I'm not seeing what we need to see. Okay, so All right, let me just clear the node. Clear the node, and let's start over because I didn't even have it set as a target, so that's why we're not seeing what I need to see. Okay, add maneuver. Let's get it up there. Okay, so trying to figure out. See, that's like 3,000 meters per second. Okay. Which is way more than what I'm looking for. Okay, now we're talking. Okay, we have an encounter. 2,400 meters per second, which that matches up with what we're looking for. Okay, good. Found it. Okay, so we want to lock to that maneuver. And it's going to be a 4-minute burn. Okay. Node is in 3 hours. Alright, let's warp to there. "22 minutes. Warp to there. So we want to be like 2 minutes and 7 seconds is when we want to initiate the burn. And go. Make sure that we're on that maneuver node. Now the thing is, if you look at, say, the ideal launch point, which is right about there, we depart at day 263. We're currently at day 70, I think, ish. Which means that we'll need to be launching this probably before this probe even arrives at Duna. So that's fine. This probe is going to be the first one to get there. And whether or not we actually capture, I'm not sure. We'll have to see. We'll have to see how much Delta V we have when we get there. How much we're going to need to capture. That sort of stuff. Notice drifting a little bit. We might need to do a bit of a correction burn at some point in the orbit. I don't think I have Kerbal Alarm Clock installed. I probably want to do that. I'll have to see if it's compatible with the version that I'm running. And see if I can get that in here, because that's going to be useful. Alright, a minute left on this burn. How does the orbit look? It's getting there. It shows a periapsis of what? 13 million meters. It'll do. Get ready to cut engines. Here we are. And that is actually not bad. No, we don't want to warp there. Okay. So the probe is on its way. We have 1900 meters per second of Delta V left in the tank. So go ahead and leave this to it, because it's got a bit of a long flight ahead of it. $352 days to do our encounter. Alright. Actually, let me go ahead and switch to this guy. I have no control over it, but I just want to see what his trajectory looks like. Okay, it's just not that much different. Unfortunately, it's just going to be a bit of a piece of space junk for ever. Unless we send something out to rendezvous with it, capture it, and bring it home. But I don't foresee that ever happening. So, that is what it is. Miscalculated slightly. Alright, back to the Space Center. So we should have a little bit more science. Let's take a look at exactly how much we have. $139.4. So that could be something that unlocks something fairly cheap. Can't do anything on this row, so that'll have to be over here. Some aerodynamics. Parts. Subsonic flight. There's nothing in this particular branch, so we don't need to go down there. Recycling gets us recycling module. It reduces life support load. That will be necessary if we want to start establishing any kind of permanent outposts. So you know what? We're going to go ahead and grab it. As much as I'd like to start doing some stuff with aerodynamics and maybe planes, but no. No, not yet. We are going to want to start establishing a space station here at some point. So that's going to be part of a plan. But I want to get a Minmus landing going. I don't know if we're going to launch it this episode. I mean, I've run some pretty long episodes the last couple. I don't know if I want to run another super long one, or if I'm going to really be able to this time. Was it Gladius 1? That, I believe that was. Yes. Alright, so this is going to be Gladius 2. Which is going to be Minmus. Alright, we're going to need to make some adjustments here. For one thing, this tank needs to have a bit more fuel in it, so I'm going to go ahead and increase... Well, that's the most I can increase it. How much Delta V does that add? Alright, so if I pop that off, okay. How much Delta V does this add? Like 20? 15, 20? That's nothing to sneeze at. There's definitely nothing to sneeze at. Let's see. Could I squeeze anything in here? Maybe. Well, the thing is we're gonna want another cargo. Container here. Put some more ladder rungs there for the Kerbals to use so they can get into that box. And in this box, what we're going to do is we are going to throw... I would have thought it would have been in here. Where did it put my ground stuff? I know I've seen it before. There it is. Oh, okay. We're not really going to need this, the ground thing, because we're bringing a relay satellite with us. But I am probably going to want another photovoltaic panel. And a weather analyzer? No. Brand Slam passive seismometer. Yes. And... Let's see. Precisely calibrated seismic shockwaves generated by smashing rocket parts at high speed into whatever planet or moon it happens to be sitting on. So, oh, we're going to need an impactor. Oh. So, what I'm probably going to want to do is this upper stage here, want to make that controllable. If I make that controllable, then I can ditch it in min-miss orbit and then use it as an impactor for that seismic experiment. The seismometer. Speaking of seismometers, we need to add these guys in here. Alright, now minified monopropellant tank. There we are. Let's see, do I want to try to squeeze these in here? You know what? Let's go ahead and do that. Let's throw... Let's throw a few of those monopropellant tanks in there. Alright, I should add a little extra delta V to hopefully avoid issues. Alright, now what I also want to do is gear, toggle the stabilizers. There we go. So now the stabilizers should work on the gear command, G. Alright, so do I want to make this upper stage controllable? And how would I go about doing that? Onboard camera. Pods. I thought I saw a little thing we could stick to the side. I just have to find out. See, filter by tech level. Caribou radial probe. A small radial probe. Oh, it's for VTOL aircraft. But no, I think it should work for this. Let's try it. Let's just try it. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Snap it on the side there. And then we're going to need some power. Some power. Couple of these. There we are. Torque. Torque is going to be a problem. I don't have any reaction wheels that large. I can go with RCS thrusters. We would need to throw in another RCS tank. Not a real problem. Now, you have to be careful we don't drain RCS fuel monopropellant out of that tank, because we're going to need it. Alright. Okay. Alright. Alright. I think that will do. Save that. And I think it's ready for flight. But one thing we're going to do is go ahead and end the episode here. It's going to be a little bit shorter, as I said, than the last couple. But next episode, we're going to fly this thing to Minmus and establish our ground outpost on Minmus. And then I'm thinking we're probably going to need to start... oh, I need to adjust all this staging, but... we're probably going to need to begin working on a Duna manned mission soon, because our transfer window is not that far away. It's not that far away at all. So another couple of 100 days. Alright, so yeah, we'll go ahead, stop here for now, and we will begin working on that stuff next episode. So, hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. Go ahead, like, subscribe, and comment, and I will see you next time.